Imagine this. The year is 1885. The sun hasn't risen yet, but the clatter of steel wheels and the hiss of steam already echo across the American frontier. Thousands of railroad workers, grimy, exhausted, and underpaid, brace for another grueling day. But what fuels these men? Not lavish meals or hearty feasts, but humble dishes born out of necessity and resilience. These aren't recipes you'll find in glossy cookbooks or trendy bistros. They're the forgotten fare of America's working class, meals crafted from scraps, ingenuity, and sheer will. From bulldog gravy to rail camp slab bacon hash, these dishes tell stories of survival, community, and the indomitable spirit of those who built the nation's railroads. Join us as we uncover 15 long-lost recipes that once fueled the backbone of America's industrial age. This isn't just a culinary journey, it's a tribute to the unsung heroes who laid the tracks of progress, one bite at a time. Mulligan Stew, the railroad's communal cauldron of survival. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the encampments lining America's expanding railways, the day's laborers, grimy, weary, and hungry, gathered around a bubbling pot. This was not a gourmet feast but a lifeline, Mulligan Stew. A dish born of necessity, it was the embodiment of community and resilience among the nation's most marginalized. Mulligan Stew, often dubbed Hobo Stew, was less a recipe and more a ritual. In the early 1900s, as the Great Depression loomed, transient workers and the homeless, collectively known as hobos, would congregate in makeshift camps, colloquially termed hobo jungles. Here, the tradition of the mulligan was upheld. Each individual contributed whatever they could scavenge, be it a bruised potato, a wilted carrot, or a scrap of meat. These offerings were combined in a communal pot, seasoned with hope and boiled over open flames. The result was a hearty stew that nourished both body and spirit. The origins of the term mulligan are debated. Some suggest it's a nod to Irish immigrants, with Mulligan being a common Irish surname, while others believe it references a fictional character symbolizing the everyman. Regardless, the stew became synonymous with the collective struggle and ingenuity of those facing economic hardship. Interestingly, the stew's composition was as varied as its contributors. A 1900 newspaper account detailed the process. One man would procure a can, another would gather meat, while others would source vegetables, bread, and seasonings. If someone managed to liberate a chicken, it was considered a luxury. The concoction was then boiled until edible. In some regions, unconventional ingredients like tobacco were added, not for nutrition, but to mask the stew's often questionable flavors. Mulligan Stew was more than sustenance. It was a testament to the human spirit's capacity for adaptation and solidarity. In an era marked by scarcity, this humble dish provided a sense of community and a brief respite from the hardships of the road. As we delve deeper into the annals of America's culinary history, let's uncover another forgotten recipe that once graced the tables, or rather, the tin plates of the nation's unsung laborers. As the sun rose over the rugged landscapes of the American frontier, the clamor of hammers and the hiss of steam signaled the start of another grueling day for railroad workers. Amidst the cacophony, the scent of sizzling bacon wafted through the air, emanating from the makeshift kitchens of rail camps. This was the humble yet hearty rail camp slab bacon hash, a dish that fueled the laborers laying down the tracks that would unite a nation. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, slab bacon was a staple in the diets of working-class Americans, particularly those in transient professions like railroad construction. Unlike today's prepackaged slices, slab bacon was a thick, uncut piece of cured pork belly, prized for its long shelf life and rich flavor. Its durability made it ideal for the harsh conditions of rail camps, where refrigeration was non-existent and resources were scarce. The preparation of slab bacon hash was a testament to culinary ingenuity born out of necessity. Workers would dice the bacon and fry it in cast iron skillets until the fat rendered, creating a flavorful base. To this, they added chopped potatoes, often salvaged from provisions or local farms, and sometimes onions or other available vegetables. The mixture was seasoned simply with salt and pepper, then cooked until the potatoes were tender and infused with the smoky essence of the bacon. This dish was more than sustenance, it was a morale booster. Sharing a communal meal like slab bacon hash fostered camaraderie among workers facing the relentless demands of railroad construction. It was a momentary respite, a taste of comfort in an otherwise arduous existence. Today, slab bacon hash has largely faded from mainstream culinary memory, overshadowed by modern conveniences and changing tastes. Yet, it remains a poignant symbol of the resilience and resourcefulness of America's laboring class. As we continue our journey through forgotten recipes, we uncover another dish that once graced the humble tables of those who built the nation's railroads. As the sun set over the sprawling rail camps of 19th-century America, weary workers gathered around crackling fires, seeking solace in simple, hearty meals. Among these was the iron skillet corn dodger cake, a humble yet nourishing staple that fueled the laborers laying the nation's tracks. Corn dodgers, also known as hot water cornbread, trace their origins to Native American cuisine, where ground corn was a dietary cornerstone long before European settlers arrived. These early recipes were adopted and adapted by pioneers and laborers, becoming a fixture in the diets of those enduring the harsh realities of frontier life. The preparation was straightforward, utilizing readily available ingredients: coarsely ground cornmeal, boiling water, a pinch of salt, and bacon drippings or lard for richness. The mixture was stirred into a thick batter, shaped into palm-sized cakes, and fried in cast-iron skillets over open flames. The result was a crispy exterior encasing a tender, flavorful interior, a testament to culinary ingenuity in the face of scarcity. These corn dodger cakes were more than sustenance. They were a symbol of resilience and community. In the communal settings of rail camps, sharing such meals fostered camaraderie among workers from diverse backgrounds, united by their toil and the simple comfort of a warm, satisfying dish. Today, the iron skillet corn dodger cake stands as a poignant reminder of the resourcefulness that defined America's working class. As we continue to explore the forgotten recipes that once nourished the nation's laborers, we uncover another dish steeped in history and heart. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the bustling rail camps, the aroma of a unique dessert wafted through the air: shanty bean pie. This humble yet hearty confection was a testament to the ingenuity of America's working class, transforming simple pantry staples into a sweet solace after a day's labor. Originating in the late 19th century, bean pies were born out of necessity. With limited access to traditional pie ingredients, resourceful cooks turned to what was readily available: beans. Navy beans, in particular, became the star, their mild flavor and creamy texture providing an ideal base for a custard-like filling. Mashed and blended with sugar, eggs, milk, butter, and a medley of spices such as cinnamon, nutmeg, and vanilla, the mixture was poured into a simple crust and baked to perfection. The shanty bean pie wasn't just a dessert, it was a symbol of resilience and community. In the communal dining areas of rail camps, sharing a slice of this pie fostered camaraderie among workers from diverse backgrounds. It was a momentary escape from the grueling labor, a sweet reminder of home and heritage. Over time, the bean pie found a special place within African American Muslim communities, particularly associated with the Nation of Islam. Promoted as a wholesome alternative to traditional soul food desserts, it became a staple in many households and a means of fundraising within the community. Despite its deep cultural roots, the shanty bean pie remains relatively unknown to the broader public, a hidden gem in America's culinary history. As we continue our journey through forgotten recipes, we uncover another dish that once graced the humble tables of those who built the nation's railroads. As the sun rose over the rugged rail camps of 19th century America, laborers sought a hearty meal to fuel their grueling day. Enter rail spike gravy over lard biscuits, a humble yet satisfying dish that became a staple among the working class. The biscuits, crafted from simple ingredients like flour, baking powder, and lard, were baked to golden perfection. Lard, a readily available fat, imparted a rich flavor and tender crumb to the biscuits, making them a favored choice among cooks of the era. The accompanying gravy, often referred to as bulldog gravy, was a concoction born out of necessity. Made by combining flour, milk, and the drippings from fried meats such as sausage or bacon, this gravy was both economical and flavorful. In some instances, water replaced milk, further stretching limited resources. Together, the lard biscuits and hearty gravy provided a filling meal that sustained workers through long hours of manual labor. This dish not only satisfied hunger but also embodied the resilience and resourcefulness of America's working class during challenging times. As we continue our exploration of forgotten American recipes, we uncover another dish that once graced the tables of those who built the nation's railroads. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the clatter of hammers and the hiss of steam subsided, weary tracklayers gathered around their modest campfires. Among the few comforts of their grueling days was a humble yet hearty dish, tracklayers' sour potato mash. This dish was born out of necessity and ingenuity. Potatoes, abundant and affordable, formed the base. But it was the addition of sour cream, a tangy byproduct of milk left to ferment, that elevated the mash, adding richness and a slight tang that invigorated the palate. The preparation was straightforward, reflecting the simplicity of camp life. Potatoes were peeled, diced, and boiled until tender. Once drained, they were returned to the pot, where sour cream, salt, and pepper were added. The mixture was mashed to a creamy consistency, sometimes with a bit of reserved cooking water to achieve the desired texture. For an extra touch, some cooks would sprinkle crispy bits of fried salt pork or bacon on top, adding a savory crunch to each bite. This dish not only provided sustenance but also a sense of comfort and camaraderie among the workers. It was a testament to the resilience and resourcefulness of those who built the nation's railroads, turning simple ingredients into a meal that nourished both body and spirit. As we continue our journey through forgotten American recipes, we uncover another dish that once graced the tables of those who laid the tracks of progress. In the heart of America's Industrial Revolution, amidst the clang of hammer on rail and the hum of steam engines, workers sought solace in simple, hearty meals. One such dish that warmed their spirits and filled their bellies was the tin can sausage chowder. This chowder, born from necessity and ingenuity, utilized the limited resources available to laborers. The foundation was humble: potatoes, onions, and sausage. These ingredients, often preserved in tin cans for their long shelf life, were staples in the workers' diets. The preparation was straightforward. In a large pot, sausage was browned to release its savory fat, which served as the base for the chowder. Chopped onions were sautéed in this fat, releasing their sweetness and aroma. Then, diced potatoes were added, simmered until tender, and combined with water or broth to create a hearty soup. Seasoned simply with salt and pepper, the chowder was brought to a boil and then simmered to allow the flavors to melt. The result was a thick, flavorful chowder that provided much-needed sustenance after a long day's labor. It was a dish that not only nourished the body but also offered a sense of comfort and community among the workers. Today, the tin can sausage chowder stands as a testament to the resilience and resourcefulness of America's working class. It reminds us that even in the face of hardship, simple ingredients can come together to create something truly satisfying. In the heart of America's Great Depression, amidst the clatter of trains and the hum of steam engines, a humble dish known as the Hobo cabbage boil provided solace and sustenance to the transient workers who traversed the country. This dish, born out of necessity and ingenuity, utilized the limited resources available to these wandering laborers. The primary ingredient was cabbage, a hearty vegetable that could withstand the rigors of travel and still provide nourishment. Alongside the cabbage, potatoes, carrots, and onions were often added, creating a medley of flavors that was both filling and comforting. The preparation was simple yet effective. In a large pot or kettle, the vegetables were combined with water and brought to a boil. Seasoned with salt and pepper, the mixture was then simmered until the vegetables were tender, allowing the flavors to meld together into a hearty stew. The beauty of the Hobo cabbage boil lay in its adaptability. Whatever ingredients were available, be it leftover meats, canned goods, or fresh produce, could be tossed into the pot, transforming the dish into a communal effort that brought together individuals from all walks of life. This stew was more than just a meal. It was a symbol of resilience and community. It represented the spirit of the hobo lifestyle, a life of freedom, self-reliance, and shared experiences. As the song "Boil Them Cabbage Down" suggests, the act of boiling cabbage was more than just a cooking method. It was a way of life, a rhythm that echoed through the camps and hearts of those who lived it. Today, the hobo cabbage boil serves as a reminder of a time when simplicity and community were at the forefront of daily life. It stands as a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of America's working class during challenging times. As we continue our journey into America's forgotten low-class family recipes, now we uncover a dish that is humble in its ingredients but rich in flavor and history: griddle grits with grease drizzle. This simple meal was a staple among Southern railroad workers, sharecroppers, and laborers who depended on affordable, filling food to fuel their long, exhausting days. Grits, ground from dried corn, have been a Southern favorite since the 18th century. But the version we're exploring isn't your smooth, creamy grits you find on fancy menus today. Instead, it's a rustic, stone-ground variant cooked thick and then fried on a griddle until golden and crispy around the edges. The griddle gave these grit cakes a texture that was both hearty and satisfying, perfect for eating with rough hands after a tough day's work. The magic, however, lies in the grease drizzle, a generous pour of rendered pork fat or bacon grease drizzled hot over the griddle-cooked grits. This wasn't just flavor, it was a practical way to add much-needed calories and richness to an otherwise plain dish. For many, bacon grease was treasured and saved carefully, used sparingly but always with purpose. This dish perfectly illustrates the resourcefulness of working-class families who stretched every ingredient to its fullest. The grits provided slow-burning carbs, the grease added fat and flavor, and together they formed a meal that was cheap, filling, and deeply satisfying. Today, griddle grits with grease drizzle is more than just a forgotten recipe. It's a window into a time when every meal told a story of survival, ingenuity, and community. So next time you savor grits, remember the hands that crafted this humble dish and the history sizzling in every bite. As our journey through America's forgotten railside recipes rolls on, we come upon a dish so bold in flavor, so rooted in grit and survival, it could only be called Switchmans salt pork and onions. This was the meal of the night shift worker, the railroad switchman, men who braved the cold, the clatter, and the danger of shifting rail cars in pitch dark. They needed fuel, not frills. And salt pork and onions gave them just that. Salt pork, once a staple of military rations and backwoods kitchens, was cheap, shelf-stable, and loaded with fat, exactly what laborers needed in a time before refrigeration. Unlike bacon, salt pork wasn't smoked. It was cured, heavily salted to preserve it through months of transport and rough storage. For many working-class families, it was the only meat they could count on. Switchman would slice this fatty cut thin and render it in a cast-iron pan until the edges crisped and the fat turned to liquid gold. Into that sizzle went thick slices of onion, white or yellow, whatever was on hand, caramelizing slowly, absorbing every bit of that salty, savory fat. The result? A rich, deeply flavorful mix of crisp meat and soft, golden onions, often spooned over stale bread, leftover potatoes, or eaten straight from the pan. This wasn't a dinner made for elegance. It was made for endurance. Salt pork and onions gave switchmen the warmth and weight they needed to face long hours under freezing skies and steel tracks. Today, the dish may be lost from most cookbooks, but not from history. It whispers of a time when taste wasn't crafted by chefs, but by necessity. When the line between surviving and thriving was drawn in cast iron and salt. And now, as we reclaim the stories behind the smoke, grease, and grit, Switchman's salt pork and onions takes its rightful place on the table once again. As we dig deeper into America's lost culinary past, we uncover a dish baked not in fancy ovens but in the glowing embers of a humble hearth: Ashpan Molasses cornbread. This wasn't just food, it was survival and tradition baked into every golden slice. Ashpan cooking was a method born out of necessity for low-income Appalachian families and rural workers who lacked modern kitchen tools. Instead of a conventional oven, a cast-iron skillet filled with cornbread batter was placed directly into hot ashes and embers from the fire, often covered by more coals on top to create an improvised oven. This technique gave the cornbread a distinctive smoky crust and moist interior, something no modern oven can easily replicate. The batter itself was simple but flavorful, cornmeal mixed with just a touch of flour, baking soda, and salt for rise and taste. The real secret was molasses, thick, dark, and bittersweet, added as the primary sweetener. Molasses was affordable, readily available, and packed with iron and nutrients, making it a practical choice for families scraping by. For Appalachian families, this cornbread was more than a meal filler. It was often served alongside beans, greens, or a piece of salt pork, fueling hard labor in the fields, mines, or railroads. The dense texture and rich sweetness made it comforting, especially during long winters when fresh food was scarce. Though the dish may seem simple, Ashpan molasses cornbread carries centuries of Appalachian grit, resilience, and culinary ingenuity. It stands as a testament to how resourceful families used every available ingredient and tool to nourish their loved ones. So, as we savor this forgotten recipe today, we taste not just cornbread but the smoky warmth of history, community, and survival baked into every crumb. As we continue peeling back the layers of forgotten American low-class recipes, we arrive at a dish born from thrift and resourcefulness: bunkhouse apple skin dumplings. This humble dessert wasn't about luxury, it was about making the most of what little was available in the bunkhouses where railroad workers and laborers found shelter. Apple skins, often discarded as scraps, became the star ingredient here. In a time when every bite counted, nothing was wasted. These dumplings turned leftover apple peels into a sweet, warming treat that could be whipped up quickly with minimal ingredients. The dumplings were made by simmering apple skins with a basic dough of flour, water, and a pinch of salt, sometimes enriched with a bit of lard or butter if available. The dough wrapped around the apple skins steamed gently in a pot, often sweetened with molasses or a pinch of brown sugar, releasing a fragrant aroma that filled the cramped bunkhouse kitchens. This recipe reflects the ingenuity of low-income families who used what others threw away, transforming humble scraps into comfort food that lifted spirits after grueling days on the rails. The sweetness of the apples, softened and intensified by cooking, balanced perfectly with the simple dough, creating a nostalgic flavor that connected workers to home and tradition. Beyond taste, bunkhouse apple skin dumplings symbolized a communal spirit. Recipes like this were shared around makeshift tables, nourishing bodies and friendships alike, sustaining the workers physically and emotionally. Today, this dish might be forgotten, overshadowed by more glamorous desserts. Yet, it holds a powerful story of resilience, thrift, and warmth, a reminder that even the simplest ingredients can bring comfort and joy when shared with those who need it most. Continuing our journey through America's forgotten flavors, we arrive at a dish that's as hearty as the workers who relied on it: greased Pan Slongolian. This humble meal, born in the kitchens of low-income families and labor camps, was a practical, filling solution to feed large groups with minimal resources. Slongolian, a term dating back to the 19th century, generally referred to a thick stew or hash made from whatever leftovers were available. But greased Pan Slongolian was unique. It combined rendered fat, simple starches, and whatever vegetables or scraps were on hand, all cooked together in one heavy pan. At its core, this dish was about maximizing flavor and calories from minimal ingredients. Rendered lard or bacon grease was heated in a cast iron skillet until shimmering, then combined with chopped potatoes, onions, and sometimes bits of salt pork or canned meat. These ingredients would fry together, the fat coating each piece and creating a crispy, golden crust on the bottom, what many called the grease line, a prized part of the dish. The beauty of greased Pan Slongolian lay in its versatility. Railroad workers, miners, and sharecroppers would adapt the recipe based on what was available. Turnips, carrots, or wild greens could be tossed in when in season. The result was a thick, savory medley, heavy on fat and starch, perfect for sustaining hard labor. Though often dismissed as simple or unrefined, this dish holds deep cultural significance. It's a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of low-class American families who made nourishing meals from scraps, creating comfort and community in tough times. So when you taste greased Pan Slongolian, you're tasting more than just food, you're tasting survival, adaptation, and the spirit of America's forgotten working class. As we journey further into the shadowy corners of America's culinary past, we uncover a dish that sustained the hard-working section gangs, the section gang turnip fry. This simple yet hearty recipe was a staple for railroad workers responsible for maintaining track sections, who needed food that was both filling and affordable. Turnips, often overlooked today, were a crucial root vegetable for low-income families and laborers. Hardy, easy to grow, and rich in nutrients, turnips were abundant and accessible. The section gang turnip fry made the most of this humble vegetable, transforming it into a satisfying dish that could be cooked quickly over an open fire or crude stove. The preparation was straightforward: peeled and sliced turnips fried in generous amounts of rendered fat, usually bacon grease or lard, until golden brown and tender. Sometimes onions or wild herbs were added when available to deepen the flavor. The frying process created a crisp exterior that gave way to a soft, creamy inside, providing a delightful contrast that was both comforting and sustaining. For the section gangs, whose work was grueling and dangerous, this dish was more than just sustenance. It was a quick energy boost, a warm comfort after long hours exposed to the elements. Cooked communally in cast iron skillets, it fostered camaraderie among the workers, reminding them of home and simpler times. The section gang turnip fry is a vivid example of how necessity and ingenuity forged meals that fed America's backbone, the laborers. Though it has faded from modern menus, this dish tells a story of endurance, thrift, and a deep connection to the land and the people who worked it. Today, as we remember section gang turnip fry, we honor those who transformed simple, often disregarded ingredients into vital nourishment that powered the rails of progress. As we delve deeper into the heart of America's forgotten culinary treasures, we uncover a recipe steeped in history and resilience: Gandandy dancer drip coffee bread. This humble yet hearty bread was a staple among railroad workers, known as Gandandy dancers, who laid and maintained the tracks that connected the nation. The term Gandandy dancer refers to the rhythmic movements of these workers as they used specialized tools to align the rails. Their labor was grueling, often under harsh conditions, but it was sustained by simple, nourishing foods like this coffee-infused bread. The bread itself is a testament to ingenuity and thrift. Made with basic ingredients, flour, sugar, yeast, and a generous amount of brewed coffee, it provided the necessary sustenance for long days of labor. The coffee not only added flavor but also a subtle energy boost, keeping the workers alert and energized. Baked in large batches, this bread was often shared among the crew, fostering a sense of community and camaraderie. Its rich aroma and hearty texture offered comfort and warmth, a small solace amidst the demanding work. Today, Gandandy dancer drip coffee bread serves as a delicious reminder of the resilience and resourcefulness of America's working class. It's more than just a recipe, it's a piece of history, a link to the past that continues to inspire and nourish. If you found the story of Gandandy dancer drip coffee bread fascinating, imagine the untold tales and recipes we've yet to uncover. By subscribing to our channel, you become part of a journey that brings these forgotten flavors back to life. Join us as we explore more dishes that have shaped America's culinary landscape. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more delicious history.